Presidentship of Hamid Ansari, and now Ansari has attracted sharp criticisms from the BJP after this picture on your screens has floated. Remember, Ansari had come out and said this is a litany of lies. However, this picture on your screen shows how Nusrat Mirza is sitting on the same dais and sharing it with not just Hamid Ansari, but look at some of the others also who are there with him, which includes Farooq Abdullah. Imam Bukhari is also part of that dais, and so is Gulab Nabi Azad, one of the senior most leaders of the Congress party. Now, the BJP has sought clarification from Ansari and Congress, saying that it is openly backing Pakistan and its spies.
तो वो ये कह सकते थे और कांग्रेस की सरकार भी ये कह सकती थी कि इस व्यक्ति को यहां पे नहीं बुलाया जाए, हम वीजा नहीं देंगे, सरकार कह सकती थी कांग्रेस की। और मैं मंच साझा नहीं करूंगा, ये हमीद अंसारी जी कह सकते थे। तमाम बार ऐसा हुआ है, लेकिन जैसा हमें पता है, कांग्रेस पार्टी का चरित्र यह है, सर्जिकल स्ट्राइक का प्रमाण मांग लो, आर्मी चीफ को सड़क का गुंडा बताओ।
अब वो हामिद अंसारी साहब अपना बयान देते रहे। एक बयान उस पत्रकार का भी है जो कहता है मैं आईएसआई का एजेंट हूं और हामिद अंसारी जिससे संपर्क में था, परंतु हामिद अंसारी के चेकर्ड करियर रहा है। इस प्रकार का मामला पहले भी रहा है। जब वो ईरान के एम्बेसडर थे तब भी उनके ऊपर कई सारे प्रश्न उठे थे। जिस प्रकार से वहां पर रॉ की एक्टिविटीज को उन्होंने छेड़छाड़ की थी, उसको लेकर कई सारे प्रश्न हैं। अपेक्षा है कि वो उन प्रश्नों का भी उत्तर देंगे।
There are some serious questions and allegations that Mr. Hamid Ansari will need to answer. You have a senior advocate and a well-known person, Mr. Agarwal, raising these questions. In the first instance, Mr. Ansari had denied being on any platform along with this Pakistani journalist. Now, the Congress jumped into his defense. Now there's a photographic evidence showing the former Vice President, when he was Vice President, Mr. Hamid Ansari, sharing a platform with this Pakistani journalist on another function of the Jama Masjid, organized by the Jama Masjid Committee. If these are true, and the photograph certainly indicates that, then choosing to deflect the issue rather than coming clean on it raises serious questions on Mr. Hamid Ansari.
So let me go across to Sabir Sachi, who is joining us from the national capital. Sabir, yesterday we saw Hamid Ansari as well as the Congress coming out and dismissing the claims that Hamid Ansari had shared a dais with someone who himself has admitted to being an ISI, a Pak spy. However, today this picture has now come to light. After calling it a litany of lies, is the Congress now accepting that yes, indeed, he was part of the same event?
Well, absolutely. Yesterday, as we know, both Hamid Ansari as well as the Congress had denied all these charges. And now BJP had taken a counter press conference to dismiss all the claims which has been put by Mr. Ansari as well as the Congress. First, the BJP has put out the picture and also point-wise what Mr. Ansari had said in his press release. BJP had countered his statement, stating that why the clearance was given, specifically at the time when the 26/11 had taken place and not even a year had been passed, and this particular person from Pakistan was invited to over here in the national capital and was giving speech over how to tackle terrorism. So these are some of the important points that has been raised by the BJP, and also the BJP alleges that Hamid Ansari himself wanted his office to call Nusrat Mirza in 2010 also for a function, but at that particular time the function could not take place. So clearly there has been twice incident where Nusrat Mirza was called in by the then government here in the national capital to participate in their programs, and also sharing the podium were several top leadership of the Congress at that particular time. The major point that BJP raises question is that at that point when the 26/11 attack had taken place, was it that necessary to invite somebody from Pakistan and share the same podium? Why was the visa given? Because the visa was given for 7 states, and at this particular point, whether there was some pressure from the top leadership of Congress to the intelligence agencies to give him a clearance, because in this particular time there is thorough check of any sort of person who's coming from Pakistan. His background is being checked, so that raises some serious question whether Nusrat Mirza's background was checked by the intelligence agencies, if there was any sort of pressure which was created by then UPA government. So these are some of the important points which has been raised by the BJP, though they have said that they would not stop here until and unless Hamid Ansari gives a clear answer as to regarding his involvement as well as his senior leadership, which was clearly seen sharing the podium with him. And as we know that Nusrat Mirza has clearly went on television and took name and also what was his real motive. So clearly this raises a lot of questions which the Congress leadership needs to answer. Back to you.
Well, in fact, do stay on with us. Let's tell you how the Congress is trying to defend it. Listen in to some of the reactions.
इसका तो जवाब हामिद साहब ही दे सकते हैं, मुझे इसकी कोई जानकारी नहीं है।
सर, लेकिन बीजेपी जो है लगातार अटैक कर रही है।
मुझे इसकी कोई जानकारी नहीं है, इन फालतू चीजों के लिए समय नहीं है हम लोगों के पास।
सर, बीजेपी का कहना है कि सोनिया
हो गया बात भाई, इसको छोड़ो इस क्वेश्चन को।
BJP is alleging that Mr. Ansari has done something anti-national, and the same BJP heads the government. Why have they left Mr. Ansari scot-free? What action have they taken? Or this is just a character assassination, just because Mr. Ansari belongs from the minority community, to show, to portray that nobody from the minority community can be a nationalist or can be a patriot for the country. So what is that BJP want to do? So this kind of propaganda, just to portray that all the minorities in the country, whether they are Muslims, they are Christians, whether they are Sikhs, they call the Sikhs Khalistanis, they call the Muslims terrorists, they call the Christians something else. So what are you going to portray is my, what do you want to do with the society in India is my question to the BJP.
Ansari ji was attending that conference. He was not the organizer of that conference. You see, this conference was organized by the International Bar, by one Mr. Agarwal. And the Chief Justices of more than a dozen countries, I think, if I'm not mistaken. I did not attend it, but that's my estimate because I've attended some of their programs. Reading the statement of this gentleman who has come from Pakistan, one sees that he's only boasting about people who were there. It doesn't mean that Mr. Hamid Ansari is responsible for his coming.
So let me go across to Aishwarya, who joins us. Aishwarya, what's appalling is how the Congress is reacting to it. You actually had one of the senior leaders, Tariq Anwar, coming out and said, I don't have time for these kind of faltu cheese. This is about national security, as the BJP claims.
Well, that's right, and the protocol clearly says that whenever the President of India or the Prime Minister or the Vice President attends any event, then the full information has been passed prior to the IB, and only on the request of the following personalities, the approvement of these people who will be sitting on the dais have is later been approved, and therefore in this particular case, what KTS Tulsi and Congress have been saying that it is only the organizers who have been responsible for inviting the Pak journalist, and they have been also saying that the visa was granted by the government of India to that Pak journalist, but similarly on the other side, Hamid Ansari is not responsible. But this is something which is contrary to what it has been stated, because if Vice President office will not approve the following people who will be sitting on the dais, then nobody else can sit. So, and we can clearly see in these conferences that how with Hamid Ansari there are Congress leaders as well as the Spark journalist is also sitting on the same dais and sharing the thoughts, which is clearly contrary to what the Congress has been responding to.
We'll keep tracking the developments on that front. We'll keep coming back to you for more details on that, Sabyasachi as well as Aishwarya. This is going to be one of our top focus stories. But for the timing, let's move on in the bulletin.